The night was calm, the kind of calm that makes silence feel heavier than noise. The rain outside whispered against the windows, and the faint hum of Liam's computer filled the room. He sat alone in his home office, finishing a few late-night reports. His wife, Emily, had already gone to bed, or so he thought. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening, one of those quiet nights where nothing remarkable happens. But sometimes, life doesn't warn you before it changes everything. As Liam closed his laptop, his eyes caught another one left open on the kitchen table, Emily's. She must have forgotten to shut it down after work. He walked over, intending only to close it, but a soft ping stopped him. A message flashed across the screen. Backup complete. Folder memories. He frowned. Memories? He whispered to himself. The name sounded innocent, nostalgic even, yet something about it felt off. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was fear, or maybe it was a subtle tension that had been growing between them lately. Her long silences, her sudden work trips, her phone always turned upside down. Curiosity and dread fought inside him. After a moment of hesitation, he opened the folder. Dozens of video files appeared. Most were dated years ago, before their marriage, but a few were recent. His heartbeat quickened as he hovered over one labeled only with a date, April 12th, their anniversary. He clicked. The video began with laughter, a familiar voice, her laughter. But then another voice joined, deeper, masculine, a voice he recognized instantly. Daniel, her ex. Liam froze. The world seemed to tilt. His chest tightened as the laughter on screen turned into something else, something intimate, something she had always refused to share with him. His fingers trembled. His breath caught. In that moment, the rain outside grew louder, almost mocking. The folder's name, Memories, suddenly felt cruel, because these weren't memories he was meant to see. And as the screen glowed against his hollow face, one quiet thought echoed in his mind. My marriage ended the moment I pressed play. The first few seconds of the video were enough to shatter something inside Liam that could never be repaired. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation wrapped in disbelief. Emily's voice filled the room, soft and playful, a tone he hadn't heard from her in years. Then Daniel's voice joined, smooth and confident. Liam felt his pulse thundering in his ears as the camera shifted, showing them together, laughing, touching, whispering things that once belonged to him. She had told him she wasn't that kind of woman, that passion faded with age, that routine was normal in marriage. Yet here she was, alive, wild, and radiant, for someone else. He wanted to stop watching. He should have stopped, but he didn't. Pain has a strange pull. It makes you dig deeper into your own wounds. One by one, he opened more files. Each clip felt like a stab from a knife he couldn't see coming. Some were older, clearly filmed before they married. But then came one dated just last year, a hotel room. The same trip Emily had said was for a marketing conference. He leaned closer, his trembling fingers covering his mouth. Every lie she'd told him now had a timestamp. Every tear she had faked now had a recording. And then he saw something that made his blood run cold, a short clip recorded inside their home. The angle was familiar, the lighting unmistakable. It was their bedroom. She had brought him there. Liam's body went numb. The screen blurred as tears filled his eyes, but he couldn't look away. The video ended, leaving only silence and his own ragged breathing. He stared at the folder, his reflection faintly visible in the dark screen, eyes empty, soul cracked. The clock read 3:07 a.m. The rain outside had turned into a steady storm, thunder echoing in the distance. He slowly closed the laptop and sat there, staring at nothing. He thought of every small lie that suddenly made sense. The late replies, the girl's nights out, the coldness in her touch. Every excuse was a thread. And tonight, he had pulled the one that unraveled everything. When dawn finally came, Liam hadn't slept. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching Emily breathe peacefully beside him, as if nothing had happened. Her hand rested near his arm, innocent, trusting. He quietly stood up, walked to the kitchen, and made coffee, not out of habit, but because he didn't know what else to do. When she entered the kitchen later that morning, stretching and smiling, she said softly. "Good morning, babe." He didn't respond right away. He just looked at her, really looked at her, as if seeing a stranger in his wife's skin. Finally, his voice came out calm but cold, the calm before an emotional storm. "We need to talk, Emily." And with those 5 words, her perfect morning shattered, just like the man standing before her. Emily froze, her smile fading instantly. The warmth in her eyes disappeared as she studied his face. Pale, tired, unreadable. "Liam," she whispered, setting down her cup. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Instead, he placed her laptop on the kitchen counter and slid it toward her. The screen was already open, the folder memories glowing in cruel silence. Her breath caught, the color drained from her face. "Why? Why were you going through my files?" Liam's voice was low, trembling but controlled. "Because my instincts wouldn't let me sleep, and now I wish they had." She hesitated, her fingers trembling near the keyboard. "Liam, please, it's not what you think." He stepped closer, cutting her off. "Then tell me, Emily, what should I think? That your ex just magically appeared in those videos? That the woman laughing and touching him wasn't you?" Tears formed in her eyes. "It was before us, some of it, at least. I meant to delete them." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "Don't lie to me again. There are dates from last year. Hotel rooms. Our home. You filmed him here, Emily, while I was gone for work." Her lips trembled. "Liam, please, it was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go that far." He clenched his fists, his voice steady but hollow. "You didn't mean for it to go that far? You kept the evidence, Emily. You called it memories. You treasured it." Her tears spilled freely now. "I was lost. I felt unloved. You were always busy, distant." He cut her off sharply, his voice breaking. "So your solution was to find comfort in the man who broke you before I ever met you? The man you swore you'd never speak to again?" She covered her face, sobbing. "It wasn't supposed to happen. He reached out after my mother's funeral. I was weak." Liam stared at her. The woman he once saw as a safe place now looked like a stranger caught in her own lies. His heart hurt, but his mind was clear. "Emily, do you even realize what you've done? You didn't just cheat. You recorded it. You kept it like a trophy. Every time I held you, you let me believe I was the only one." Her voice was barely audible. "I wanted to stop. I swear I did. I just didn't know how." He shook his head slowly, his voice quieter now, almost gentle, but colder than before. "You didn't stop because you didn't want to. You stopped because I found out." She looked up, desperate. "Liam, please, I'll do anything. Therapy, honesty, whatever it takes. I'll fix this." He stared at her long and hard, his eyes glassy but firm. "You can't fix what you filmed, Emily. You can't unsee what I saw. You didn't just betray me. You made sure I'd never forget it." Silence filled the kitchen, thick, suffocating, final. After what felt like forever, Liam turned away. "Pack your things. I can't look at you right now." Her knees buckled, and she fell to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, Liam, don't do this. I love you." He stopped by the door, not turning back. "If this is love, Emily," he said softly, "then I'd rather be alone." He walked out into the rain without looking back, leaving her surrounded by the echoes of her own choices, and a laptop full of memories that had destroyed everything. The rain didn't stop that night. It followed Liam as he walked aimlessly down the street, soaking his clothes, clinging to his skin like a betrayal that refused to wash off. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't stay in that house another second. His mind replayed the images from the videos again and again. Like a cruel movie, he couldn't pause. Her laughter, her touch, the look in her eyes, the same eyes that once looked at him with love. By the time he reached the park near their neighborhood, his body was trembling from cold and exhaustion. He sat on a bench under a flickering streetlight, staring at nothing. The rain blurred everything. The street, the world, his own reflection in the puddles. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Betrayal is quiet sometimes. It doesn't always come with anger. Sometimes it just leaves you hollow. When dawn came, Liam returned home. Emily was sitting on the living room floor, her eyes red and swollen, surrounded by tissues and regret. She looked up the moment he entered, hope flashing for a second, only to fade when she saw the emptiness in his face. "Liam," she whispered. He didn't answer. He went straight to the guest room, shut the door, and locked it. The sound of the lock clicked louder than thunder. Days turned into weeks. The house felt like a ghost of what it once was. Emily tried to reach out. Small gestures, forced smiles, apologies that meant nothing anymore. She left notes by his breakfast, texts that went unread, dinners he never joined. Sometimes he heard her crying in the shower. Other times, she stood by the door whispering, "Please talk to me." But Liam had no words left. He spent his nights at work, and his days buried in silence. The warmth that once defined him had turned to ice. One evening, his friend Noah visited. The moment Liam opened the door, Noah could see the wreckage written across his face. "Man, you look like you haven't slept in weeks," Noah said softly. Liam gave a hollow smile. Sleep's for people who don't see ghosts when they close their eyes. They sat quietly, sipping coffee, the air heavy with unspoken pain. Finally, Liam said, "You know what hurts the most? Not the cheating. Not even the lies. It's realizing she recorded it, like she wanted to keep it." Noah nodded slowly. You can forgive someone for a mistake, but not for turning that mistake into a memory. That night, Liam walked into their bedroom, the same one from one of the videos. The room looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. He stared at the wedding photo on the dresser, the smiles, the vows, the promise of forever. His reflection in the glass looked older, colder, broken. He picked up his wedding ring, turning it in his fingers. Once, it had meant everything: loyalty, faith, love. Now it was just a circle of metal. He whispered to the empty room, "You turned our memories into lies." The next morning, he filed for divorce. Emily collapsed when the papers arrived. She tried to call, to beg, to promise she'd change. She even started therapy, sending him screenshots of her sessions, desperate to prove her remorse. But Liam had already made peace with one thing: the past can't be rewritten. As he packed his bags to move out, he glanced at her one last time. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights. She reached for him, whispering, "I can't live without you." He paused at the door, his expression soft but distant. "Then you should have thought of that before you recorded your life without me." And just like that, he walked away, leaving behind a house full of silence, shattered vows, and a folder named memories that would haunt her far longer than had hurt him. 6 months passed. The divorce was finalized, signed, sealed, and buried beneath stacks of legal paper. But the scars it left behind weren't so easy to hide. Liam had moved into a modest apartment on the edge of the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. The air was quiet, the walls untainted by lies. For the first time in months, he could breathe without feeling the weight of her betrayal pressing down on his chest. The first few weeks were strange. He'd wake up reaching for the empty space beside him, only to find cold sheets. He'd catch himself setting 2 plates for dinner, then quietly put one away. The habits of love die slower than love itself. But slowly, life began to take shape again. He threw himself into his work, spending late nights coding, taking on projects he once declined. His boss noticed a change, a man running from something, but turning that pain into purpose. Within a few months, he was promoted. His co-workers cheered. He smiled politely. Success felt hollow when there was no one to share it with. Sometimes, when the night grew too quiet, he'd scroll through old photos, not of her, but of moments when he was genuinely happy. Birthdays, family trips, sunsets. Then he'd close his phone and remind himself, those are the only memories worth keeping. Emily, on the other hand, was living her own punishment. Her friends had drifted away, unable to look at her the same. Even Daniel had disappeared. His last message was a simple, cold text. "You've ruined everything. Don't contact me again." She spent her nights replaying her mistakes, watching her own videos with tears streaming down her face, hating the woman in them. She'd sit by her laptop, opening the memories folder again and again, until one day she deleted it all, not out of guilt, but because she couldn't bear to see her own reflection in them anymore. Then, one rainy afternoon, She showed up at Liam's office. He froze when he saw her standing there, thinner, paler, her once vibrant eyes now dim. "Liam," she said softly, her voice trembling, "I know I shouldn't be here. I just needed to say I'm sorry. For everything." He stayed silent, his expression unreadable. "I deleted the backups," she continued, tears spilling over. "Every single one. I can't live with them, or with what I did." He finally spoke, calm and steady. "You can delete the files, Emily, but not the damage they did." Her voice broke. "I still love you." Liam sighed, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. "Love isn't supposed to destroy the person you claim to care for. You didn't just break our marriage. You broke me." She stepped closer, her voice desperate. "Is there any chance left?" He looked at her for a long moment, his eyes filled not with hate, but quiet pity. "No," he said softly, "because I finally found peace, and I'm not willing to lose it again." She covered her face and sobbed, her shoulders shaking. Liam turned away, walking toward the door, his voice low but final. "Goodbye, Emily. Take care of yourself. And maybe someday, forgive yourself too." As she walked out his life for the last time, the rain began to fall again, soft, endless, and familiar. But this time, Liam didn't feel broken. He just felt free. A year later, Liam's life no longer resembled the ruins he once crawled from. The pain hadn't disappeared. It had transformed. It had become strength, discipline, and a quiet determination to rebuild. His new apartment was brighter now, decorated with simplicity and purpose. There were plants by the window, books stacked on the coffee table, and photos of places he'd visited. Not to escape his past, but to rediscover himself. He had been promoted again, this time to project director. His co-workers admired his focus, unaware that his drive was born from heartbreak. Every success was a silent victory against the man he used to be, the one who begged for love from someone who didn't value it. Some evenings, he still thought of Emily, not with anger, but with distant acceptance. He no longer saw her as the woman who broke him, but as a catalyst that pushed him toward becoming who he was meant to be. One night, while organizing his digital files, Liam stumbled upon an old hard drive. For a moment, his chest tightened. He knew what was on it. The folder. He hesitated. The memories of that night came rushing back. The rain, the silence, the pain. But this time, he didn't tremble. He didn't hurt. He simply plugged it in, selected the folder named Memories, and hit delete. No hesitation. No second thought. He leaned back in his chair, watching the progress bar vanish, feeling the weight of years lift from his shoulders. For the first time in a long while, he smiled, a genuine, quiet smile. The rain began to fall outside again, soft and rhythmic, just like the night his heart shattered. But this time, it didn't sound like sorrow. It sounded like peace. She recorded her memories to keep them. He whispered, "I erased mine to move forward." And with that, Liam stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city lights, not as a broken man, but as someone reborn. Because sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming untouchable. As the city lights shimmered through the rain-soaked glass, Liam took one last deep breath, calm, steady, free. The ghosts of betrayal no longer haunted him. They had become lessons carved into his soul. The folder called Memories was gone, and with it, the pain that once defined him. He no longer sought revenge or closure. He had both in his peace. "She called them memories," he murmured, staring at the dawn breaking through the clouds. But some memories are meant to be deleted, and for the first time, his heart finally felt light.